Jadi sebelum saya memberikan mic ini kepada panel, jadi suka untuk saya ceritakan tentang pembicaraan yang tahu kita mengenal ini. Jadi pertama sekali akan ada pembentangan selama 6 minit ada setiap panel. Dan kemudian ada soalan dari moderator, dan kemudian kami akan buka soalan untuk audiens. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, saya menyerahkan mic ini kepada panel pertama.
Assalamualaikum. Hi everyone. So I'm here to talk about Islamic feminism, and I'm sure a lot of you mesti pernah dengar orang cakap, oh, feminism dengan Islam tak boleh bergabung, it's against Islamic values, you know, and stuff like that. But I'm a Muslim feminist, so I work within the framework of Islam. What Islamic feminism does is basically we study and we research the status of women in Islam, and we work together to achieve the rights that are granted to us. One thing we have to remember is that during a time where women were not given any rights, basically Islam gave women rights. So let's just say, kita ambil for example, in a time where, during the time of Revelation, in a time where women were seen as objects of inheritance, Islam gave women the right to inherit. And in a time where women were seen as personal property, Islam gave women the right to possess personal property. In a time where women were seen as objects that can be collected, Islam gave women the right to reject marriages, to divorce. And in a time where unlimited marriages were common, Islam regulated and restricted polygamy. And in a time where women were silenced and voiceless, Islam gave women the right to testify. So, so basically from what we can see here is that basically many centuries ago, 1,400 years ago, when Islam was set down, Islam gave such revolutionary rights to women, to the point where, at that point, basically, Islam is feminist even before the term feminism was created, because of the rights that we were given. So, whatever Islamic feminism is doing right now is not, kita bukan buat tafsiran sendiri, kita bukan trying to change Quranic laws, we are not trying to basically go against traditions and values. What Islamic feminism is doing right now is basically a resurgence. Tengah bawa balik whatever the Prophet, the Quran and Islam gave us. What we are doing right now is basically bringing it back. But sebabkan benda tu, a lot of people think that Islamic feminism is going against Islam, because if we were to look at a lot of Muslim majority countries, Islamic feminism banyak kita fight against basically laws that are oppressing its women. Like basically in Saudi, perempuan tak boleh drive, and then even in Malaysia, kalau they cannot drive, they cannot vote, and basically even in Malaysia, kalau lelaki nak kahwin lagi satu, they don't need to seek permission from the first wife. So when it comes to these kind of things, it's very problematic towards women. So what we are doing is not going against Quranic text, but trying to bring back the rights that Islam has given us. Because somewhere down the line, we have to admit that interpretations that we know of sekarang ni regarding Islam were mostly made by men. So every interpretation yang kita ikut sekarang ni, we have to understand that what we know of Islam today is all a matter of power. Siapa yang kat atas, they make the interpretations, and then orang yang kat bawah akan ikut. And throughout the centuries, our interpretations were made by basically misogynistic and patriarchal men. So because of that, most of our laws, most of the things that we understand of Islam sekarang ni, semua berpihak pada lelaki. So that is where Muslim feminists come in. Muslim feminists don't just consist of women, it consists of a lot of men as well. So
mungkin ada sesiapa nak tanya patriarki tu apa ke? What is Do you know what is the patriarchy? Like, aku maksudnya, it's not man hating. What is it? Okay. What is
Domination.
the domination?
By men.
Domination by men.
Where basically men are predominant in our culture. So basically patriarchy is the idea where lelaki kat atas, yang lain semua kat bawah. So because of that, when kita fikir balik about all the rights that Islam has given us in the past, basically what the Prophet, what Islam and the Quran did for women was very revolutionary, where basically it changed, it created a paradigm shift within a society where women were allowed to be part of public spheres, were allowed to work, were allowed to participate in war, and things like that. Tapi kenapa zaman sekarang, okay, in that time, whatever the Quran did, whatever Islam did for women was considered progressive. Tapi kenapa sekarang bila orang ikut Quran, like Muslim majority countries that claim to follow the Quran and Sunnah and Hadith, why is it when orang really follow, instead of being progressive like how the Quran is, why is it that they are being more regressive? So Islamic feminism is nothing new. Memang dah dulu dah ada. I mean, if you were to look at the Prophet's wife, for example, Aisyah played a huge part in spreading the teachings of the Prophet. She was basically, she was like a very important narrator. People looked up to her during a time where basically women were seen as nothing. So the only difference dulu dengan sekarang is that sekarang the term feminist dah ada. Pada zaman dulu tak ada. It was basically just giving women's rights. So Islamic feminism, just to repeat what I said just now, it's nothing new. It can coincide with religion, and basically it is just a resurgence of the progressive values that the Quran has handed down to us. So I think for now, to do it, all this about feminism.
Okay, sebelum saya lupa, tinggal tadi program yang dianjurkan ni merupakan kerjasama antara Projek Dialog dan juga Mahasiswa Progresif. Mahasiswa Progresif SISPRO adalah singkatan bagi Mahasiswa Progresif yang ditubuhkan sejak 2 tahun lalu, yang menganjurkan diskusi intelektual yang bahaskan isu-isu masyarakat. Kami juga banyak dulu ada jemput tokoh-tokoh seperti Nurul Izzam dan sebagainya. Jadi sebelum saya tanya soalan kepada Saudari Shafiqah, saya rasa saya perkenalkan dulu panelis kita yang baru datang, iaitu Dr. Yuen Wong, iaitu seorang yang dapat ijazah kedoktoran dalam bidang PhD dalam bidang gender study. Jadi untuk doktor, kita mulakan balik, iaitu format dia 15 minit untuk presentation.
Terima kasih. Selamat malam. Wassalamualaikum kepada semua muslimah dan muslimin. Saya sangat merasa bahagia, bangga datang ke USIM dengan ada peluang bertemu dengan pelajar-pelajar dari USIM. Dulu saya hanya mencara di Universiti Malaysia, tak pernah bertemu dengan pelajar yang expert dan specialize dalam Islamic Studies. Dan maafnya kerana saya prepare saya punya ucapan dalam bahasa English, dan saya pasti semua pelajar di sini fasih dalam bahasa English kerana pelajar-pelajar di sini nak bertanding dengan pelajar-pelajar dari UIA. Ada UIA semua guna bahasa English. Okay. So saya meletakkan tajuk persembahan saya dengan ini. What is in a name? ? Talking about radical feminism and Islamic feminism in Malaysia. First, I will begin by making my positioning explicit. My name is Yuen Wong, a Chinese name. I am Malaysian, born and raised solely in West Malaysia, and my ancestry is Cantonese from southern China. I have to date only visited China once. Overlaid in the capital city Beijing for 3 days on my flight to Montreal, Canada for a human rights conference on gender and sexuality. My mother tongue is Cantonese, though I am fluent and comfortable speaking the Mandarin, Malay, and English language. I grew up in a family which have practiced Chinese ancestral worship, Taoism, and Buddhism, but have later embraced Christianity. I only found Islam, which is a spiritual and ethical reality rooted in Abrahamic religious tradition and syncretic with Near Eastern and Asian religions, when I was actively engaged with the scholarship on Islam and the communities of scholars of Islam in the United States of America. My coming of age was formulated within the socio-political context of authoritarianism in Southeast Asia and East Asia, and the emergence of Islamic revivalism in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the West. My encounter with Islamic feminism started at the Library of Science University of Malaysia on Penang Island in the aftermath of 1997 Asian financial crisis, as well as at the peak of Reformation movement in Indonesia and Malaysia. The Moroccan sociologist Fatima Melissis, who is now be attributed as the founder of Islamic feminism in the West, forms the foundation of my later academic pursuits in Islamic feminism. So how many of you have read Fatima Melissis' book? It's not late. She is now a legacy, a legend. She passed away last year. Yes. She began to publish since 1970s. Any of you born in the 1970s? But 1970s is not long ago. It's only like 3-4 decades ago. In 1970s. Her scholarly work on the sexual politics in Muslim society and Islamic scripture provides me great insights into interrogating the hegemonic discourse on Muslims' women's sexuality. I was writing a master's dissertation on feminist media discourse analysis of women's sexuality in the 1999 Malaysian general election campaign. Remember, that was the time PAS started to send women candidates, and we started to have a new political party, Parti Keadilan Islam, and Anwar Ibrahim was charged with sodomy. Suddenly all of us know this is a law in Islam against anal sex. So, intriguingly, another feminist scholar whom has had a great impact on my feminist awakening was Nawa al-Sadawi. How many of you heard of her? No? Have you read her novel? Not yet. Belum lagi akan datang, okay? The Egyptian writer, activist who has published almost 50 novels. She has been called a radical feminist, yes, by the West. Recently, only recently. She started writing in 1970s. How old is she now? Something like this. She's very old. Okay. She has been called a radical. Okay. Her stories were rooted in women's experience living in Muslim societies in the Middle East. She is an Egyptian. Their struggles, the discriminations and oppressions they faced, and their hopes and fears living as a woman. In her words, this is Nawal al-Sadawi's word. She said, quote, "It is social justice, comma, political justice, comma, sexual justice. It is the link between medicine, literature, politics, economics, psychology, and history. Feminism is all that. You cannot understand the oppression of women without this." Okay. So So women's experience constitute feminist ontology and epistemology framework, not limited to Islamic feminism, but also in Western feminism, Black feminism, Asian American feminism, Chicana feminism, Third World feminism, indigenous feminism, and global feminism and transnational feminism. The core of it is women's experience. Count, okay? Sadly, the space to talk about Islamic feminism in Malaysia is very often stifled by the politics of anti-Westernism discourses and ideologies. While its legacy could be justified as a legitimate Muslim's reaction and resistance to the Western Orientalist discourse and ideology on Islam and the Muslims, anti-Westernism have been strategically used by patriarchal Islamist leaders to silence Muslim women's resistance against discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion in the patriarchal Islamic doctrines, practices, ideologies, and cultures. On the other hand, many Muslim women themselves wield the term feminism and the name feminist originated from contemporary Euro-American liberal as well as imperial feminism. And therefore, they refuse to be identified or self-identified as feminist. Despite their personal struggle, activism, or critical scholarship in combating sexism, heterosexism, racism, classism, colonialism, imperialism, or Orientalism in Islam. It is a conscious choice made to prevent oneself from being seen or judged as complicit in perpetuating Eurocentric or reductionist views of Islam under the Western enterprise to discredit and misrepresent Islam. Certainly, while many Muslim women have capitalized on the United Nations Conference of Women since 1975, certain sectors of the majority Muslim women still very skeptical of the saving Muslim agenda coming from Western institutional setups. The anxiety experienced by Muslim women and men in the post-September 11 and war on terrorism era was particularly traumatizing. It further adds currency to the discourse and ideology of anti-Westernism. However, Muslim women's resistance against the co-optation of their struggles in the imperial and international feminism, as well as the neoliberal feminism of the US war on terror campaign, is not without valid concern or consideration. Many Muslim feminist scholars' work, like Shafiqah Othman, who have read her. She's a Jewish woman, Muslim, in Yale University, very old already. The first book was also published in 1970 something. So you have to see. I have recommended Moroccan feminist, Egyptian feminist, Jewish feminist. She's still alive. Sabah Mahmud, have you read her book? Asma Basla, Anna. Leila Abu Loho, tak ada. Research, okay, these are the feminist scholars' work, okay. Their research and publications already long been critical of the Islamophobia promulgated in international relations. I mean, many of them make conscious choice not to identify feminists, even though they are very much someone. If feminism is to fight against political injustice, social injustice, sexual injustice. Okay, so in recent, what about, do you know Joseph Massad? So in Joseph Massad's recent book, he's a professor in Columbia University. In case you want to do a master or PhD there, a wonderful university, you have to go to Columbia. Nice. In Joseph Massad's recent book, Islam in Liberalism, okay, last year, okay, he includes a chapter on women in or and in Islam, the rescue mission of Western liberal feminism. This is the title of the chapter, and it make up the whole chunk of the book. Yeah, okay. Which flesh out the genealogy of the insertion of women's rights in the Yuen mechanisms, its complexity, and the problem of rendering gender violence in non-Western societies as cultural problem. Okay. And Islam as the contributing factor to gender violence. So he has a whole chapter talk about the complexity of that. Well, to overcome the apologetics and polemics against Islamic feminism, I would suggest for the young people who are interested to take part in this conversation or debate to be reminded of the first revelation of Islam. Read, which was told through the prophets. So in order to be able to answer the questions about what is Islamic feminism, and the question about how do we want to talk about Islamic feminism in a constructive manner in Malaysia, I strongly suggest we need to follow the footsteps of those who have engaged in the intellectual history of Islam. The public sphere in Malaysia has become a highly political space, resulted from both colonial and post-colonial political trajectory. And Islam has rendered into the hands of the legalists, bureaucrats, politicians, lobbyists, hearsays, and even rumors. The implications of the politics of Islam in this country are absolutely alarming. It is pertinent as well as imperative to craft out a public space for building an intellectual tradition of contemporary Muslim culture in Malaysia to pursue the study of Islamic feminism. As pointed out by a Muslim feminist scholar, Sadia Said, I met her at the Musawa opening in year 2009 before I left for the US. She came all the way from University of Cape Town, South Africa. She is Muslim feminist. Sadia Sheikh, who is based at the Department of Religious Studies and the Center for Contemporary Islam at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, in her article, look for her. Who have read her paper? Oh, this is a very important paper. It's titled Transforming Feminisms, Islam, Women and Gender Justice. Okay, now I'm going to quote her whole paragraph. This is what she said, okay? Open quote. While some Muslims eschew the term feminist, increasing numbers have begun to utilize the term to describe themselves. The value of retaining the term feminism is that it enables Muslim women to situate their praxis in a global political landscape. This is in turn creates greater possibilities for alliances, exchanges, and mutually enriching interactions among different groups of women. These connections enable varying groups of women to share and learn from each other's experiences, whether this is an exchange of feminist tools of analysis or of varying ways of implementing activist initiative, or simply an exposure to other forms of justice-oriented gender praxis. Furthermore, the use of feminist language is helpful in that it creates a finely tuned vocabulary for a constellation of ideas that are linked to a critical consciousness surrounding gender politics. To accept feminism as a Western concept is in the last analysis to concede the most visible discourses around women's rights and gender justice as the property of the West to marginalize the indigenous histories of protest and resistance to patriarchy by non-Western women. Therefore, I use the term feminist as a description of Muslim women's activists that are aimed at transforming masculinist social structures. This is her position. I agree with her, actually. So yeah, this is the last paragraph. Okay. So as a conclusion, I strongly believe we need to acquire the language to talk about our experience and thoughts. And we need to be precise and clear with the words we use in discussion or debate. Currently, there are concerted effort being made to create public archive on Islamic feminism. And for those who are, very technological savvy, this is this is something you can think about to pursue, And many contemporary Muslim scholarly works on Islam in women and Islam and women are produced or written not merely by female Muslim scholars. I'm speaking to this half of the class. So to name a few renowned male scholars in Islam, have you heard of Omid Safi, Tariq Ramadan, yes, Farid Esa, okay, and Musa Ibrahim. Remember Musa? No? Yeah, okay. So they write about gender justice and they are write about they are feminists actually. So I think this is much better than the Western feminism. Okay, they still talk about what is white. Their Western feminism, the only person they can show is that Michael, something that use white balloons, start to talk about gender violence. I think in current intellectual history of Islam, we have much better scholars. Okay, he has a book, look for it. It's called Progressive Muslims and Gender Justice. It was published not long after the September 11 incident. It's totally in response to American audience who misunderstood Islam. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Doktor. Sebenarnya
Clarification on what doctor is.
Doktor.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Saya sebenarnya nak dengar lagi, tapi kita beri peluang pada audience dan nak diskusi ni jadi terlalu dry. Ini mesti ada Q&A daripada audience. Ya, seterusnya setelah selesai tiga-tiga ahli panel membentangkan idea masing-masing, jadi saya buka untuk soal jawab. Silakan.
Tertarik dengan perbatas tentang bahasa tadi. Dengar? Tak dengar? Okey, tertarik dengan saya Fairul Zaman daripada UKM. Saya tertarik dengan perbahasan tentang bahasa tadi. Jadi setelah kita berbincang tentang macam mana Islamic feminism daripada konteks pelbagai sekolah Muslim sendiri. Kemudian kalau dulu Lenny pernah bergaduh dengan Tan Malaka bercerita tentang Marxism. Jadi bergaduh pasal Tan Malaka kata Marxism memang telah ada dekat Indonesia, cuma istilah tu tak ada. Jadi terminologi feminism untuk kita pakai di sini dan kita mengambil konteks macam saya nakib pada atas kata tentang civilization. Civilization kita tak boleh pakai sama dengan tamadun. Sebab tamadun ada konteks din, madani, madana. Jadi ini apa yang dilihat civilization adalah satu bentuk dualism yang sekular. Jadi kita lihat feminism ni, bagaimana kita nak meletakkan feminism dalam konteks Malaysia, Tempatan dan Islam. Adakah sebenarnya boleh atau tak boleh? Sebab teknologi itu sendiri datang daripada barat, Western.
Waktu saya di University Science Malaysia itu pada tahun 1998. Di dalam library sudah banyak buku-buku yang ditulis di 1970s oleh wanita Muslim tentang masalah-masalah di Morocco atau di Egypt. Waktu itu mereka belum secara official identify mereka sebagai feminis. Tapi itu 1997, 10 tahun sebelum 1997. Okay. Ada seorang scholar daripada Amerika Syarikat, dia Muslim. sekolah. Dia datang ke sini mengajar di UIA dan dia banyak memikirkan perkara gender dan perkara bagaimana kenapa wanita, suara wanita, pengalaman wanita tidak ada dalam Quran. Jadi dia menulis sebuah buku Wanita dan Quran dan dipublish oleh organisasi Malaysia namanya Sister Islam. Ya. Jadi boleh nampak tak tentang persoalan tentang authenticity. Authenticity, apakah itu dikira lokal dan apakah itu dikira global? Apakah itu dikira tempatan? Apakah itu dikira dari luar, dari tempat asing? Itu soalan kamboya. That is the inti of it. Yeah, so if you look at the struggles of Malaysian women in Islam, but at the same time, such as child bride, budaya child bride. Kalau kita melihat sejarah pada tahun 30-an, 40-an, adakah budaya mengkahwinkan anak gadis satu norma Muslim Malaysia? Kita tak dapat bukti. Tetapi sekarang menjadi satu masalah di Malaysia. Dan praktis ini sudah bermula di beberapa tempat di Malaysia di 10 tahun yang lepas. Jadi, untuk menangani masalah child bride, adakah masalah ini lokal atau sebenarnya dari Saudi? Kalau masalah itu dari Middle East, adakah kita tidak perlu menangani masalah ini? Kalau masalah pun boleh diimport dari luar negeri, solution untuk sesuatu masalah sosial, kenapa tak boleh dapat reference daripada tempat yang lain? Jadi saya mengajak umpamanya pemuda-pemudi jangan terlalu caught by that binary between what is local and what is global. And in Islam is a religion about the universal, as you know. There is particularity in Islam, but also universal value in Islam. If Islam is just localized to the Middle East, it wouldn't be spread into Southeast Asia. And at the same time, our local culture has been changing recently because of the emerging Islamic revivalism. I left the country in 2009. I don't have students who wear a burqa in my class. And last semester I taught in Nottingham University. I have students wear burqa in my class. Is that local or foreign?
Terima kasih.
Very brief one. From my experience as a Malaysian, I recognize that we Malaysian actually have very rich culture. Okay, we came from the archipelago. We have a lot of indigenous cultures, and we have a very rich language. Bahasa Melayu satu bahasa yang sangat a lot ancient civilization here. But Malaysian sekarang sudah cut ties dengan Indonesia, dan kita memandang rendah orang Indonesia kerana banyak pekerja asing di sini. Itu satu hinder untuk budaya intelektual anak-anak bangsa Malaysia. Jangan buat begitu. Dan satu lagi, Malaysia also sangat cosmopolitan. Sudah dididiki dengan bahasa English sejak colonization. Dan juga banyak sudah keluar negeri dan masuk balik belajar di Western society. Dan juga semasa Western the Islamic revivalism di Middle East, ramai pelajar Malaysia dibiayai untuk pergi ke Saudi dan negara-negara di Middle East. Jadi ramai yang juga boleh bagus dalam bahasa Arab dan dalam doktrin saya. Tapi masalahnya kita sudah dibeza-bezakan. Kamu ini kumpulan itu, dan kita tidak tahu menghargai. Sebenarnya kita memiliki semua ini. Tak payahlah kita nak sendiri lawan sendiri. Kalau saya panggil Yuen, saya lawan, saya tak mau jadi Chinese, tak mau Yuen. Dan kemudian saya tak mau, saya hanya tahu suka makan nasi lemak, tak tahu makan soya, milk and pau. Then I said, oh jangan makan nasi lemak, itu Melayu punya, bukan Chinese punya. Dan saya kata, janganlah guna bahasa English, itu dari England. Dan kalau saya buat begitu, saya lawan diri saya sendiri, saya jadi kosong lah. Kita nak jadi kosong ke nak? Macam mana? Itu pertanyaan.
Tak ada.
Nak tanya. Tapi rasa macam soalan ni patut tanya last-last lah. Tapi tengok budak-budak macam tak tanya dulu lah. Apa pendapat korang? Dengan macam contoh kalau kita tengok iklan-iklan semua, dia menggunakan, saya tak tahu nak gunakan perkataan apa, tapi selalu kita tengok perempuan kan. So biasa orang akan beralasan dengan dengan menggunakan perempuan, dia macam akan menariskan jualan. So nampak macam tak, apakah pandangan korang semua yang kat depan ni pasal macam pengkomersialan perempuan untuk jualan mereka? Adakah macam diorang ni selalu macam untuk akta ada, untuk perjuangan domestik ada, tapi untuk macam yang penggunaan perempuan dalam iklan-iklan macam tak ada bunyi pun. Soalan tu mungkin pandangan dia jawab kot.
Seterusnya ada soalan yang lain ni. Silakan.
Adakah certain action daripada seorang perempuan itu, kalau dia memperjuangkan isu-isu wanita, dia boleh dikira sebagai feminisme?
Saya nak tanya soalan pertama. Tadi Maryam dia cakap pasal kalau radical movement ni dia ada elemen militan. Ada elemen militan. Kalaulah satu tahap radical feminism ni percaya membuka baju tu perlu untuk mendapat perhatian.
I think I already mentioned it's not radical.
So that is not radical. Okay. Kalau pada satu tahap tu, tapi kalau ada juga di Western dia orang percaya baju tu dan itu dikira hak untuk
Masalah sekarang ialah
That's okay. I will ask your question first, then you can answer later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seterusnya ada lagi soalan?
Ya, ada. So, tu yang keduanya adalah kalau kita percaya sejarah peradaban dunia tu, kita nampak lelaki tu dia memang bukan, lelaki dan perempuan itu bukannya sama-sama. Penciptaan lelaki dahulu barulah perempuan. Dan sejarah dunia pula menunjukkan bahawa dan perjuangan untuk hak wanita itu akan datang kemudian. Jadi kembali kepada radical movement tu, radical feminism tu, so you would like to changing the structure of the world. So yeah, it's very idealistic. Tapi saya cuma nak I try to understand what you're trying to say. Is it?
So apa soalan?
Saya nak cuma, so what are the ways that you would like to suggest?
So you agree lah that the system needs to change? First we need to get that part. Do you agree that the system needs to change? Then we can talk about how to change.
Okay, I agree the system need to change. But then the second question, how?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, betul lah apa yang aku cakap tu. So agree that the system needs
Saya
to change.
setuju, tapi saya nak dengar how.
Okay, cool.
Okay, seterusnya ada lagi? Tak ada. Boleh kita serang boleh di panel.
I respond to the question of civilization, such as the Chinese in this region like to claim that they have 5,000 years of history. How did they know? Okay, basically just based on written records, found about 3,000 years before Christ. Okay, so they calculate, they say it's 5,000 years civilization. And then you compare to Western civilizations, it's about 2,000 years because they started from Christianity, the Christ, 2,000 years. And again, how do they come to recognize that it's a civilization? All of these are based on written material. And as you know, written material in human history, all written by the people who are powerful. Okay? So when you talk about Chinese civilizations, they omitted so many ethnic groups, they omitted so many religions, they omitted so many philosophies actually practiced in that piece of land. So that's why when you talk about Christian, Western civilization, originally in Europe, people were not practicing Christianity. They only embraced Christianity after the 1st century when there is this disciple of Jesus called Paul, started church. Okay? Jesus himself never had a church. Okay? So it's like the prophet. So again, we have to be careful when we talk about civilizations. Basically, when we talk about civilization, we are talking about those powerful people who set the rules and who built institutions and justified it by tracing histories and discourses. This is true. And that related to your issue about men and women are different. Actually, the narration about history progressed from hunter and gatherer and then agricultural and then industrial. That narration itself is very, very problematic. That is very, very problematic. And now already a lot of historians already look at history as dispersed. Okay? It depends on location is more important than time. Okay? If your location is still the rainforest in Amazon or the rainforest in Sabah and Sarawak, the probability for you to be hunters and gatherers can be like forever in terms of time. But if you are located, by the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, your lifestyle will be different. Such as like, Malay cultures a lot is depending on the sea. So you have a particular habitat, a different culture. Okay. So with that, then what is this ideology about? Men and women are very different by using the story of creation. And this story of creation shared by Judaism, Christianity and Islam, even though there is a little bit different, yes. In the beginning, God created a man. Then God worried this man will feel lonely. So I created another man, woman, to be his company. So this is the first thing is you need to understand God's intention to create another person is for companionship. So there wasn't anything about I should rule over you in the beginning if you talk about the story of creation. Companionship and about love, But then why in the material world we turn out to be biologically different? Because of procreation. Procreation. Again, it wasn't an issue of power back then, the story. But of course a lot of people use that story to justify hierarchy, gender injustice. So we have to separate between what is Islam and what is Muslim practices or Muslim interpretation of Islam.
So tadi siapa tanya soalan pasal is it possible to fight for women's rights without using the term feminism? Ada siapa tanya ni? You asked, is it? What was your question?
What if aviation yang perjuangkan isu wanita juga boleh pakai sebagai feminism?
As in, would it be considered? Would it be under feminism? Well, you can. Okay, the thing is, yes, it will be considered under feminism. You can try as hard as you want to cakap dengan orang that it's not a part of feminism, but the truth of the matter is, you will be running for the same pack. And then when it comes to yang you were talking about women were made for companionship and stuff, I think a lot of us were brought up, kita diajar hadis yang katakan wanita itu dibuat daripada a man's rib, is it?
Telah besar.
Telah besar, something like that. It would be interesting to note that people use, because this particular hadith is already entrapped into our educational system to the point where people use this as a reason to cakap yang where women are basically inferior to men. It's actually interesting to note that sebenarnya hadis itu bukan sahih. So it's very problematic when Muslim practices and Muslim cultures use this macam like what Yuen cakap, a lot of the things that we understand sekarang ni is a form of power. Where basically orang atas, they are the ones who set the rules for orang bawah untuk dengar kata. So when people dekat atas cakap, they bring forward the notion yang, oh kita kena dengar kata ni. And then to top it all off, they use religion, because let's face it, religion is a very easy way to fearmonger people, to succumb people untuk ikut, to basically dengar orang atas. Like macam topik hudud, and I'm not sure if you guys have read yang keluar dekat news yang siapa tak dengar kata government dilaknat Tuhan. Basically this kind of things, when they use religion as a reason to fearmonger everyone untuk dengar kata orang yang ke atas. So I think that is where, that is how, when it comes to women's issues, Islamic feminism plays a huge part, because not only does Islamic feminism fight for the rights of women, but we also fight for women dari segi based off the Quran, based off Sunnah, based off hadith, based off different interpretations. The interpretation that we know of Islam sekarang is all a matter of power. And there are many interpretations in Islam basically, which is the reason why we have different sects. We have Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi, we have Sufi, and so much more. And then dalam Sunni sendiri kita ada fahaman yang berlainan. We have mazhab Maliki, Syafi'i, Hambali, Hanafi. So macam a lot of the things yang just because we don't adhere to a certain kind of interpretation, it doesn't mean that that interpretation doesn't exist. So I forgot where I was going with this actually.
Islamic feminism, walaupun I'm not an Islamic feminist, tapi I agree a lot with Islamic feminism. Okay, because any form of discrimination of Muslim women just because she's a woman kena re-evaluate. Itulah Islamic feminism. Contoh, pukul, suami boleh pukul isteri. Kenapa suami sahaja yang boleh pukul isteri? Kenapa tak boleh the other way round? First of all, kenapa perlu pukul in the first place? In the first place, that's already wrong. So apparently, I can't remember a sis workshop. Then ada different interpretation pada ayat tu. It's not pukul sahaja.
It's the word.
It's the word. Ada
Arabic
8
word.
The Arabic word, yeah.
Because as you know, the Muslim community, Islam was conceived in a particular Arabic community, and that Arabic community divided by different sects.
Yeah.
They speak Arabic a little bit differently, and then there is a very highly class society. The high class, and then luckily Prophet the clan took care of the that's why he got respect. But again, we use different language. And also, as you know, after Prophet passed away, how many years was spent, for the people to collect the Quran, that revelation. Then they collected a lot, and then it was a lot of meeting, a big decision to decide which revelations can be compiled into the book of Quran.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then after that, they also go and collect what he had said, hadith. And also, I collect eyewitnesses about how he lived his life, how he treated, Khadijah, how he treated Aisha, and all that. So again, you can imagine, it's a collusive project, isn't it? Is it easy to do that? Let's say if you ask your friends to talk about you alone within these 2 weeks, you get so many versions who you are, and you wonder which one is really you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, you need to go back to the precepts of Islam. You have to go back to the values.
Yeah, it has to be.
And go back to the ideal we have about religion.
Yeah. Yeah, betul. Betul. It's the ideal yang penting sebenarnya. And the ideal in Islam is about fairness. Fairness, keadilan masyarakat. Kalau sesuatu yang dikatakan hari ini tak sama saya atau tidak adalah tidak adil kepada salah satu gender di dalam masyarakat, macam mana itu boleh menjadi Islamik? Itu yang dipersoalkan oleh Muslim feminis. Okay, aku salah dengan tadi. So tadi yang baru ni.
So how many of you are very clear that the issue about the book thing is because of the word?
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah, are you aware that it's the word?
Yeah. So go and read something about that, because that is very crucial. Once you read about it, Quran tell me to hit. You will certainly come to the conclusion yourself. And the other thing is about the women, you know. Actually, the hadith about from the pengaruh, so itu sudah dipengaruhi oleh Christianity. Christian in our chapter is very clear from the Quran. So in Christian, actually, in Islam is from the dust. But again, Christian also in the beginning from the dust. Then somebody somewhere returned from the tulang rusuk. And again, what is your interpretation of my tulang rusuk? Adakah tulang rusuk saya kurang penting daripada kepala? If you interpret that way, then you will say this woman is inferior than my brain. But if you interpret tulang rusuk itu dari daging saya, this is my flesh, created by God. It's creation. Creation from creation. I'm created from God, and another man created from man. So it's about creation. It's about, you know, this, important concept of back to the one to God. Then you will look at this as equal. It's interpretation.
Women, the thing about women empowerment. Women don't need empowerment. Women need recognition. Women are already empowered. Women are so empowered. Like, I mean, come on. Like, look at your universities, man. Look at your PhD candidates, even. Look at your scholars. They're so powerful. But are they recognized? Not really. We know all the Tariq Ramadans. We know all the Abdullah Ibrahim Musa. You know. But we don't know the Nawal Sadawi.
Yeah. Asma Basra, she is very good, and then she had one speech and one paper. She said, why I don't call myself a feminist? Even though every feminist read her book, must read her book to understand about Islam and women.
Yeah.
But she made her stand very clear. She just don't want people to align her with, associate her with Western feminism.
Yeah.
I want to respond to his questions about women being sexualized as a commodity. Women being sexualized to be commodity. In terms of this issue, all feminists, regardless is secular or Western feminists or Shikana feminists or black feminists, all feminists condemn that. Okay? But at the same time, when we condemn that behavior, I mean that commodifications of women, on the other hand, we also need to recognize there are women who are from particular social locations who have to succumb to, subject to this kind of culture in order to earn a living and have a livelihood. Okay, so such as like even selling sex worker. So on one hand, we have to condemn people who commercialize women. On the other hand, also we have to build an enabling environment for women who have other skills that can join in trades that can make earn a living. And the other thing is also about in Islam. Actually, are you aware that Islam actually is a very sex positive religion? Okay? Islam is different from Christianity developed in the first century. It's because Islam totally insists that we don't encourage people to practice abstinence. Islam don't encourage you to practice abstinence.
You know what abstinence is?
If you are very sexually mature at a young age, you are allowed to, express it. But if you get married, okay, and you accidentally do that, you know all the rituals you should perform, right? So it's totally recognized, male and female, you are sexual being. It's very wonderful. But our Muslim cultures now become so repressive.
Abstinence is restraining yourself from sex. So actually, Islam is very sex positive. You don't need to restrain yourself from sex.
They encourage sexual energy as a creative energy. This is the religion that don't prohibit people from marrying, don't prohibit you from having children, and don't prohibit you from having sex. But you have to do it the proper way, because other than beside your relationship with God is your relationship with other people. Yeah, that is what Sharia is about.
Okay, buka lagi mungkin soalan yang terakhir.
Ya.
Silakan.
Jangan soalan. Saya ada 2 soalan. Pertama, seperti yang kita lihat dalam filem Hollywood, di mana mungkin kita banyak tak perasan, tapi sebenarnya kita letak bahawa wanita sebagai ganjaran terakhir, mana hero dia akan fight for the antagonist, and then dia akan nampak, and then in the end macam the girl actually fall in love with that guy all along, tapi antagonist tu macam halala. Okay. And then kita ada juga filem-filem yang walaupun dia pasal perang, but then in the end it is always macam the women will be ganjaran tu lah. And then but then also there are many movies yang meletakkan wanita tu bukan, maknanya tidak meletakkan lelaki itu sebagai hero. Macam contoh Beauty and the Beast, Frozen, macam okay. Tapi kita juga, sebab kita semua dibesarkan dengan movie, dan macam kita live our life berdasarkan cara movie itu dihasilkan, cara movie itu macam jalan cerita movie tu lah. Jadi kalau kita nampak orang jahat, kita akan assume kita baik, and we will be the hero. And okay, gitu. Soalan dia macam ni. Bila dalam movie, the girl will expect the guy untuk protect the girl lah. So it's like our job to protect the girl. So it's like macam, well, I'm not really a strong man. And then if someday happen like a burglar came to my house and attacked my family, it is my duty to protect my family first. But then
It becomes a burden for you.
yeah, but then they also cannot blame me
Yeah, of course.
for not being able to protect my family.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is okay, so my question is, maybe so we should change the way we view the role of man, also the role of women, because daripada awal tadi saya rasa macam it's more about empowering women, bukannya macam menampakkan lelaki yang lemah itu sebagai lemah, you know?
Okay.
We talk about our feelings and then we will say that stop being like a girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My second question. My second question
Yeah,
is.
sure.
My second question is, saya dari bidang sains, currently doing research dekat Strike, tahu Strike? Dekat Kajang. Strike research government facilities untuk defense.
Okay. Alright.
So dekat these facilities, and then berdasarkan apa yang saya nampak dalam bidang sains, saya tak ada jumpa lagi sebarang penindasan terhadap, mungkin itu saya tak perasan, so maybe you can show me,
Penindasan terhadap?
ah
Penindasan terhadap?
wanita dalam bidang sains. Sebab macam orang cakap macam siapa saintis yang terkenal dalam bidang dalam saintis wanita yang terkenal, Mary Curie. Tapi Mary Curie pun dia dapat dia punya hasil tu, dia hasil daripada bantuan suami dia. Okay. So is there any oppression towards women in those sciences?
Can I take the film question? Yeah. Oh my god, I love talking about film. Film culture is one of my favorite cultures of all. Okay. Masalah women in film is not whether or not women are in film. Masalah women in film is the portrayal of women in film. Macam mana wanita digambarkan